see the way they hate. And I know better than to listen to the people who are calling us slaves. I can feel the sunlight shining in.
Well, good morning and welcome to episode 837 of the Lots Project Morning Show, where the coffee's strong, the opinions are stronger, and the content is always filter-free. I'm Brian, your host, and it is May 5th, 2025. This morning I'm enjoying a fresh cup of medium light Peruvian from foodforestfarms.com because life's too short for shitty coffee. At Food Forest Farms, your beans are roasted by real human hands using a clean stream air roaster. More than just a customer, your family. Get 10% off with Lots 10, code LOTS10, and shipping is always free. While you're there, check out the C4 Club for even more awesome perks. Today I've got another full show for you guys. I'll be sharing lessons from our weekend table build, a fascinating story about using nature as protection in Poland, the latest updates on the truck situation, a look at the May comfrey sale we're having over at comfreyroots.com, the week ahead, and a little bit more. So grab some coffee, smash the like button, and let's get started. Good morning. Good morning. How are you doing today? Hopefully everything is going well. Morning, Mike Homestead. Thanks for popping in early. Appreciate that. Grab a little coffee here. I was just processing comfrey orders for the week before the show. Not a bad week. Things are going well over there. If you need some comfrey or know anybody that does, definitely send them to comfreyroots.com and find all your comfrey needs there. Well, actually, just Roots. Roots, simple, straightforward 10 packs of Roots, 1, 2, or 5 packs of Roots over there, shipped out every Monday, just as they always have since we started selling. So anyway, I was thinking this morning about something that I didn't put on the list to talk about, and I wanted to mention it before I forget, but just an interesting thing Corey and I noticed last night. We got done with our weekend. We were sitting down relaxing before we went to bed, and we were flipping through the live channels on Amazon again, and we didn't stop at the Ocho this time. We didn't stop at we did stop at some of the ones we've been binging on, some Storage Wars and Pawn Stars and things like that. And we had seen the episode that was playing live, and you can't fast forward or go to a different episode. So we were looking for something else, and she got scrolling down, and I saw Wolf of Wall Street, and I was like, oh, that's a good movie. It's long. It'll run out the rest of the night, and don't mind it. I enjoyed it when I watched it the first couple times, and just something to be on in the background since we had both seen it before. And so she clicks it, and it had just started. It was still in the intro part where he was talking before he went back to his start. And I was like, oh, good. And up pops the scene with him behind a young lady that doesn't have any clothes on. And there's these big black bars across the screen, across everything that I guess shouldn't be on TV. Good morning, Hunter. Thanks for popping in. But totally like late 80s censored, not blurred out, didn't blur out nipples or things like that. Just big, huge black bar across anything that may or may not be inappropriate. And we both kind of looked at each other like, what? What is that? And if you've ever seen the movie, there were plenty of black bars throughout the movie. And then they censored the speech too. And it was, they didn't beep it out. They just muted it. So they'd be talking along, and there's definitely some adult language in the video, in the movie, and they're talking along, and then it would just go silent. So the scene with Matthew McConaughey and Leonardo DiCaprio when he's doing coke and drinking martinis at lunch, and he's like, how many times do you jerk off? And I'm like, they censored jerk off what the so I advise if you're looking to watch a movie that has any sort of adult themes or anything like that, don't watch it on Miramax Live channel on Amazon, because it's it was kind of humorous. We got a kick out of it, but definitely old school censoring with the big black bars and just muting out the adult language, and their classification of adult language is definitely way looser than mine. So yeah, that was just something from last night that I had already got the show outline done. Just thought it was interesting, and thought I would share. So today we're talking about the table build that Corey and I guess we started. We didn't finish. We didn't complete it. Building the table and benches that we wanted to build as a possible set for us at our new place, and or to sell. And we'll get into that a little bit. The truck, another truck update. It's it is a freaking roller coaster with that thing, and I'll talk about that. And the comfrey sale coming up in May, and a really interesting story I found out of Poland that made me think about the other possibilities for the same line of thinking. So let's get to it. Table build. I shared with you guys last week that we're gonna do a little project together. Put together a big old farmhouse table. We'd looked through a bunch of DIY farmhouse table bench builds. Corey picked one that she liked the most, and it seemed pretty simple. The instructions were fairly simple. I went the end of the week to Home Depot Lowe's. We don't have Home Depot here, but we went to Lowe's and got some supplies. Also picked up some tools over at Harbor Freight. Picked up a few sanders, a belt sander, palm sander, and then had a skill saw and drill and screw gun. So that's what we're going to roll with. One lesson that I did learn is I think we were shy on tools. We were able to accomplish what we want. It would have been a heck of a lot easier if we had a compound miter saw or a chop saw, even anything that we could have made better cuts. I am okay with a skill saw, not the greatest, and angles aren't my forte. Math is comes very, very easy to me, but for some reason the layout of angles and putting them together, it doesn't click enough when laying it out by hand. So using a chop saw or miter saw where I can set the angle, even a table saw where I can set the angle, makes more sense to me. We struggled through. We ended up figuring out. Hunter says it adds character. One thing that I found out and that made the project a hell of a lot harder was that Lowe's or at least two locations, and one of the companies has multiple locations, so way more, they don't carry untreated 4x4s. Well, they do. They carry one variety of untreated 4x4, and they're cedar. And for an 8-foot chunk of cedar 4x4 untreated is $50. And I was like, I need at least two of these, so I'm not spending an extra $100 when the pressure treated ones are $11 a piece. Non-pressure treated should be well less than $50. It didn't make sense. I didn't want the cedar because it would have been different color when it stained, and two, the cost was just ridiculous to add onto a table that the total build cost on the table was supposed to be like $200 or less. So that we passed on the cedar. I foolishly picked up some pressure treated 4x4s in the moment when I was talking to the guy at Home Depot or at Lowe's. Jesus Christ, I should probably find a Home Depot. I'm guessing that they have them there if I keep saying it. But I picked up the 4x4s. They were $11 a piece, and I sat in the car. That's another thing I'll talk about here in a second. Sat in the truck and just it didn't make sense. I was like the same. Bless you, Corey. The same thing. The stain we would have had to wait for them to dry. It would have come out a different color. You're not supposed to marry treated untreated. It didn't make sense to use those. It would have looked like shit. So when I got home, I thought about it, and the way the legs were going to be joined together was with a half lap joint in the middle of the 4x4s. So 4x4, and you cut out half of it and cut out half of the other one, and you stick them together. And I said, if I used 2x4s and married them face to face and then cut pieces to fit into the rest of the missing parts, I could make 2x4s into 4x4s. Really, ideally, if I had the chop saw or the miter saw, I would have probably glued and screwed 2x4s together and made them 4x4s and cut them and possibly done the half lap. I don't know what it would have been like if I had different tools, but as it was with skill saw, I just I cut the legs, I cut the angles on the legs, and screwed the 2x4s together in the X, and then fiddly fucked and cut the pieces to go in. They didn't fit real well. I mean, they fit enough. We fucked around with it. The table legs weren't that bad because they were set to 45-degree angles. So that was pretty easy with the square, but measuring and getting them exact in the X initially, where good morning, Chris Dixon. If I had the half lap joints and I cut it out, they would have been square, but getting them square and securing them and then getting the pieces accurate to fit in, we just used wood filler. I mean, we had some gaps. We had obviously the gaps where the rounded edges of the 4x4 or 2x4s came together. We had to fill in those gaps, and then lo and behold, Lowe's lumber aren't the same size, 2x4 to 2x4. So when you were cutting a piece to inset there and secure it, it was a little different width than the other one. So even though the length and the angles were right, it didn't match up. So that was a pain in the ass. It's going to take a bunch of sanding to rectify that, but it was what it was. So that was one issue. We couldn't get the right material. So I'm going to be looking at, I'm going to be calling sawmills around and see if they would cut me some 4x4s, how many they would need to cut to make it happen, and then possibly just order the whole supplies for a whole set of table and benches and things from a sawmill, and see how that would go. My computer's going to restart here if I don't get this done. Fuck you, Windows. But anyway, that Chris Dixon says glue and fine sawdust makes great filler for gaps. Unless you're staining, it's better than wood filler. Yeah, we are staining. It turned out all right. We got the table together on Saturday. We got delayed. It rained till at least noon. It was at least noon. before we could get started. So we walked the dogs, and then we made a trip to town and picked up the 2x4s, which I had changed. I didn't pick those up the day I went to get supplies because we hadn't changed plans yet. And so we got the 2x4s. We didn't get started till afternoon. We did the table. We got the table together and called it a day. It was going to rain again. We needed to get everything covered up outside because it's all sitting outside. And I'm excited to be out at the property and have and put up a something to work in. Initially, we'll be able to work under the roof of under the roof until we get the cabin installed, and then Corey and I both agree that we want a little workshop out there, even if it's just undercover to start, and then enclosed, because the weather isn't as bad here like Minnesota, where we definitely need it enclosed. We could work all year round, even in an open, uninsulated building, and put walls on it. It gets even better. So that limited our production this weekend, was the rain and not having anything inside. We did have our friends offer their barn, but it would have been a shit show moving everything and driving back and forth. It just didn't make sense. So Sunday we got up and we were going to work on the benches. Actually, we were going to work on filling in all those gaps on the legs, and also we filled in some screw holes and things like that. And then they were going to need to dry. So while that was drying, we pounded out one of the benches. We're going to do both of the benches, but again, I made the mistake of picking up a twisted 2x10, 2x8, excuse me. 3 out of the 4 of them were fine. Somehow I grabbed, and I was trying to pay attention to this when I was picking them up. 1 out of the 4 2x10s, man, it was twisted. And when we were able to clamp it down and get it secured to the other one, but the bench just wouldn't have been flat. Turns out when we got to it, we decided that we were going to keep this set for ourselves. We weren't going to try to sell it. And so we'll end up making that second bench out of it. We didn't have enough 2x4s to do the legs because I miscalculated on the fly when I was trying to retrofit those 4x4s into 2x4s. I cut myself a little short. And so we got the one bench knocked out. We had to really mess around with angles on the legs for the benches. Because it wasn't 45. They were narrower and taller, and figuring out the angles was just a pain in the ass. And then on top of that, trying to then match all the angles of the small pieces to inset them. It was definitely a shit show of a project where it should have been pretty straightforward and lay it out and just cut the 4x4s. It would have been way easier. So that is definitely something that's got to happen if we're going to make any more of these. Otherwise, we'll have to pick some other table design with different legs. But anyway, we got the one bench done. We got the top of the second bench is done. Awaiting more clusterfuck of bench legs that we're going to do and get that done. And we're just going to use that since we know it's going to be outside and sitting on unlevel ground anyway, the twisted bench. We'll try to mess around with it and use the legs to make it a little more level. But it's definitely going to be an outside setup for us. We don't have a ton of room inside for a table that big. Ended up being 6 foot long by 33 inches wide. And then the benches are like 15-inch wide benches. So that's it'll be what it is. Ended up the scraps. I think we're gonna make some end benches out of those and make some really, really nice little benches that'll be standalone stools or for the end of the tables. They just worked out to be kind of the right length. So more fun with 2x4 legs, and by the end of it, I might be good enough with building those legs to just go with it and say screw it. But I don't think so. I think we're going to try to source some 4x4s. I did source some, but they were over 2 hours away in Muscle Shoals, Alabama, at the Lowe's there. They had a pallet of untreated 4x4s. So not sure why they don't have them up here at this Lowe's. Somebody suggested when we were talking about it in the Telegram group, maybe I should order them in. I didn't even see where I'm sure if I dug a little further, but I didn't see off the top of or when I was looking at the page to order them in. But yeah, I'm sure it was just a couple different clicks and pick up. The only options I saw was delivery not available and not available in store. So, but maybe they'll ship them up to the store. We'll see. But it was a decent project. Now we're Hunter says it could have probably ordered them in with Home Depot. Maybe there is a Home Depot, but it's an hour away up in Camden. And I think there's another one an hour away in Jackson, but the closest thing here is Lowe's. And hopefully, I'm really hoping that I can just go to a sawmill that's, I think the closest one's about 12 minutes away, and just get rough cut lumber would be fantastic to build these tables out of. I think it would be. I think they'd look really nice. But anyway, this week I got to sand the legs. I got to finish the legs on the other bench. Throw together some smaller benches, and then sand everything and start staining. We're going to do some espresso colored stain, and then some clear polyurethane on top. So this is going to be outside picnic table, and basically the only table we'll have out there. We kind of looked at each other, and we were intending to sell these, and I think if we can find the materials, we'll be able to definitely sell them. But we were like, well, we should probably keep this one. It just isn't the quality we want to sell. And we just realized we didn't have anything to set anything on at the cabin. We have some stumps from the trees we dropped, but they we're gonna get them pulled out, so there won't even be any stumps. So. Chris Dixon says we're an hour to an hour and a half from big box or sawmills. Well, aren't we geologically? We aren't. Well, aren't we a geological oddity? Both of us. We're half hour from Lowe's. There is another lumber store there, and there are the local lumber stores, but I called every place. Building supply stores, I guess. And how the hell do you even have trees there to have sawmills, Chris? I thought you guys were pretty barren up there. What do they use sawmill for? But anyway, yeah, I checked the local building supply stores. They all just, when I asked for them, they're like, no, like, why would we carry those? And the guy at Lowe's said that he gets asked at least once a week, if not more, for untreated 4x4s, and he has no idea why they don't carry them. So anyway, excited the way the project went. It looks nice. Even with the filler in the legs, they almost look like 4x4s. Almost. I'm curious when we sand it down and stain it, how it will look. But it's not bad. It's definitely high enough quality for an outside picnic table, 100%. And the benches are nice and wide, and yeah, we're happy with what we did. Would definitely move towards picking up the skill saw or the chop saw or the compound miter saw, or one version of that where angles could be set and 4x4s could be cut at once, and not dicking around with a skill saw, and it would benefit in building the cabin. So it'll probably be on the list, but I'm probably gonna go pick up. Probably gonna go pawn shopping to find that stuff. Dixon says, yeah, trees are an hour away. Firewood's an hour. Christmas trees are an hour. Like I said, geological oddity. That's what, when we were in, other than sawmill, we had a sawmill right down the road in Minnesota, but we used to say that and laugh. Everything was an hour from where we were at. Everything. Box stores, anything of any size where you were going to get your groceries we had local grocery stores, but they weren't that great. But everything was an hour away. Brainerd was an hour away. Elk River, Princeton, and Cambridge. Everything was just an hour away from where we were in any direction. So yeah, I get it. I get it with that drive. Hunter says $30 chainsaw mill thingy. You already have a chainsaw. Sounds like business opportunity. Yeah, if I want to mill the stuff. I mean, Jamie Ping has a chainsaw mill, and the guy that's doing our driveway that has property out by Delinquent Scully just bought a sawmill. The problem is you have to saw them and then let them dry. So I would get to use them a year from now, or I can't remember. It was Jamie told me the number of months. It's the number of inches. The number of inches to the center of the board times certain number of months you have to wait for it to dry. And if you do it properly. Yeah, I mean, I would really love to do, I would love to mill some wall coverings and things for the cabin. And with the understanding that, we have to mill them and let them sit for a year. It'll be interesting. So, but $30 chainsaw thingy, yeah. And then I have to find some pine, which we don't have on our property, and yeah, it's a mess. That would be a mess. I don't think that's not in my future. Good morning, Jim. Thanks for popping in. Appreciate you. Chris Dixon says from Temu. I want to order some 4x4s from Temu. see how they show up. They're going to show up like little miniature 4x4 toothpicks or some shit. 4 millimeter by 4 millimeter toothpicks. What else do we got on the list here? Oh, I'm supposed to do my comfrey route. Comfreyroots.com May sale is a buy 5-pack, so 50 roots, 5 10-packs of roots, and we'll throw in a free crown, established crown, not the crown off the plant we're cutting to get the roots. We have a limited supply of crowns started in 4-inch pots. They're established. They're putting off vegetation. And we'll throw that in with the 5 packs of roots. That's a $40 value. That crown is definitely $40 value. Throw that in when you buy 5-pack of roots, 50 roots, at comfreyroots.com. That's comfreyroots.com. Just pick the 5-pack. It'll automatically be added at checkout. Hunter says, oh yeah, my coffee. He means comfrey. Oh yeah, my comfrey is huge. Flowers everywhere now. Awesome. I just had some other Texas orders. I'm curious how they do. I know Hunter and I worked really hard to get his established over the winter and in really, really well established before the heat of Texas. This being the end of April when the other Texas order got them. I'm curious to see how they go. She's really good at she's got a pretty sweet homestead. So I'm curious where she planted them, how she's going to take care of them. So I'm going to keep in touch with her on that. But yeah, Hunter, but Hunter said that he's like a black thumb as far as technology and growing shit. He struggles. So it might have been the customer, not necessarily the product or the environment. So I'm glad to see that your plants have gotten established and flowers everywhere. They'll be hard to kill at this point. Once they're that established, they'll be hard to kill, I'm guessing. But comfreyroots.com, order a 5-pack and automatically the coupon will be added. If it doesn't add for some reason, any 5-pack order I get in and process will just put an extra crown in for sure. So comfreyroots.com, it's still a good time to get them in the ground. Maybe not in Texas, maybe not in Phoenix, unless you're really going to baby them. Northern climates, though, prime time from about Tennessee above, and then, like I said, you can make it work in the South, but I would wait maybe till fall if it gets much later than May, middle of May. Wait till after the summer dearth of Texas heat. And plant them in the fall and let them get established going into winter. So there we go. Let's see. More topic. Truck. Our truck. I posted a meme in the Telegram group the other day about I was excited. I went over a bump and the check engine light went off and the radio started working. And it hit home. The truck. Quick recap. It was random misfires. We got plugs, wires changed. I still had still had a pretty consistent misfire. I changed coil packs and threw some fuel system cleaner in it and misfired for a little bit and then it cleared. Ran great. Put another round of fuel cleaner in it, fuel system cleaner in it. And it ran fine. I went and got, I don't know, it might have been after. Yeah, it was after the show last week. I just a little update. We are on the schedule for getting our post trusses and roof panels installed out at the cabin site. So that's exciting. It's been a week. It was after the show last Monday. Looking like the end of June for that. But the truck ran great on that trip. That was about 45 minutes one direction and back. No problems. It ran well enough without throwing a code long enough and enough engine cycles that the light cleared on its own. Noticeably running better and smoother. And I was like, okay, well, the fuel system cleaner really knocked out the injectors or something to make it end up running smoother. And it was fine. Went to town a few times, went to Savannah a few times. So pushing 200-300 miles worth of driving with no issue. And then all of a sudden it came back. And I was like, oh, are you fucking kidding? And so it literally, I drove all the way to town, 25 minutes out of a 30-minute drive. In the last couple minutes, it started acting up. The light came on. It started running rough a little bit. I didn't throw a code reader on it. It felt exactly the same as what it did. I go in the store. I come back out. I start the truck, and it had no issues on the way home. And I was like, what is going on? And that's kind of been the issue, or the way it's been since, is it'll run great 9 out of 10 times, and then part of one trip somewhere it'll start acting up. So I don't know. I'm at a loss, and I'm back to the point where it's really hard to take it to the garage when it's not actually happening. So I don't know. It's kind of infuriating. It really is. So that's an update on the truck. Oh, and I went out to the property the other day, and I was going out at the easement road, and it's in rough shape. We got a shitload of rain, and some runoffs have gotten pretty deep. It needs to be graded down or smoothed or something. But I was riding in, and I got there. I parked the truck in one of the driveways, and I look back, and I almost lost our topper. The clamps on the topper had loosened, and one of them out of the 6 was holding on tight, and the whole thing had like shifted sideways on the bed as I had bounced up and down over the thing. So luckily I had my ratchet set in the truck and was able to muscle it back in line and ratchet it down. So it's just been a shit show with that truck. I'm excited to get to a point where we can pick up another vehicle. And that's a sticky situation because I don't know. I think we would have to drive it. Currently, we would have to drive it to South Dakota to get everything taken care of and get it registered and the such. So we're hopefully going to have an address at some point here in the near future to where we can register a vehicle here. We'll see. It's a lot of gray area when you try to look up what needs to happen as far as that. So fun. Where is all this stuff? I'm looking at my notes here, and somehow when I copied and pasted some stuff, it like overlapped the other topic. So I'm like, it went from 1 to 3. I was like, I know there's something else in the middle there. I'm just not sure what it was. So I was looking at I was fucking scrolling through Facebook or something the other day, and I saw this. I saw it was I think it was Amazing Facts. I follow a couple of different things that are just like really interesting facts of random shit. And I never know if they're true or not. The one site or the one page I follow really tends to be legit, and another one seems to be hit or miss, whether the stuff is actually fact or not. But the one I saw had something about there's a Polish water treatment plant that uses freshwater mussels, not like your arms gun show mussels, like the ones you eat. Freshwater mussels as their system to tell if the water is good or bad. The water quality. That's it. Water quality. And I worked in water treatment at a couple of different facilities, not public use water, but treating dirty water, industrial discharge water at a couple different places. So it piqued my interest real quick. And so I looked it up, and it was legit. And by looking it up, it sent me down a rabbit hole reading about this. And it's a really interesting setup they have. And it made me think about what other functions in nature could we use in similar situations, not necessarily for water testing quality, but using the natural functions of nature to accomplish a task. So what they have going on is they're drawing water out of the river. So let me get the name of the name of the so Gruba Kaska is the water filtration plant in Warsaw. It pumps tens of millions of gallons of water out of the Vistula River, and then goes for public use in Warsaw. I believe that's the capital of Poland. It just says the capital. It doesn't give the name, but there's actually two or three cities in Poland that are using this system. But anyway, in the inlet of the water treatment plant, they rotate in a series of 8 freshwater mussels. If you know what mussels are, they're like clams. They got a shell, it opens up and closes, and the little things in the inside. Well, they realized that good morning, Rewilder Life. She says late, but I made it. Must have needed to sleep. Your body will do you right. It won't lead you wrong. Uh, Speaking of nature, so these mussels, the way they naturally work is if the water quality diminishes, the mussel will actually close up until it clears up. That they filter water, they use water in their life cycles. So when the water gets bad, they don't want to take that in. They'll actually clam up. The shell will snap shut. So they realized this, and they realized that if the water quality wasn't good enough for the mussels, like Chris Dixon says, if the dog won't eat it, if the mussels don't want it in their system, it's too dirty to allow into the public, or too dirty to filter out what's going on. And so they attached this little mechanism to the top of the clam, or the top of the mussel, and it's got a little probe on it, and they set them on these little pedestals. And when the water gets crappy and the mussel shell shuts, it contacts the electrodes with the other electrode, and it sends a signal. And I believe in the one system it said if 3 out of the 8 alarms go off, they shut the gate and the water's too bad to use. So the mussels basically control the gate, and if they're all open, they just go with it. And as the water quality diminishes and these mussels shut, it will trigger an alarm to shut the gate. I thought that was phenomenally fantastic. It was fantastic. I just love it. I'm starting to try to think of different ways that this could be applied, not necessarily with mussels, but like I said, different functions of nature like that. Sunflowers moving or something like that. I don't know off the top of my head, but it's there now. So as I observe things and read random stuff and identify these different functions in nature, it would be cool to be able to incorporate them into systems. So, speaking of that, Kerry Brown and I were having a conversation over the past week. He's going to be out to Delinquent's Gully here in the middle of the month. Actually, he's going to be up at SOE doing some work, and he's going to be stopping out. And we've been talking about hops. Kerry and his brother run a hop yard at their place. I've been doing it for a while now. Knows what he's doing, and so we're thinking about doing some hops out at Delinquent's Gully. Also contemplating doing a hop yard up at Jamie Ping's. He's got a better setup for it. Basically, you need an open spot to get sun and a decent breeze for ideal conditions. And Jamie has that. Delinquent's Gully really doesn't have a whole lot of open flat space where you get sun and wind and flat space with all the trees. And I'm not in the business of trying to open up something like that just for a hop yard. But we were spitballing different ways that we could run them there. Maybe smaller systems, not a whole big yard like he does, where he's got the posts and the cable, and they run the hops in a long line, and they grow up the cables, and they I think he has he said he had 100-foot by 200-foot square patch, and it would have been we just don't have the area to do it there. But we got thinking and we got talking about a couple different systems, and the one I threw out was kind of a maypole setup, where if we did one pole and grew them up the sides like a TP, maybe put some climbing pegs up the pole so we could climb up and down to attach and detach at the top. That was one idea. And then Carrie suggested something, and we got talking back and forth. And I think we might attempt to find 2 trees. And this is I think this would be pretty cool. We're gonna attempt to do 1 row. We're gonna try to find 2 trees that have an opening and a flat spot in between them, flat enough, and basically put since we won't be able to get equipment in there. When Carrie and his brother work on them, they use a skid steer with a bucket or a platform, and they raise somebody up and they just drive along and they do the work up in the air, like 20 feet in the air. We're not going to be able to get equipment in there. And so we're trying to figure out how to get the line up in the air, like the maypole climbing up it, but to be able to do the spring work, getting the guidelines attached and pulled up in the air. And then at the end of the season, be able to detach them and harvest the vines with the hops on them. And so Carrie's like, said something, and I was like, well, if we can find 2 trees almost the right distance apart, 50 to 100 feet apart, and if we put pulleys on the trees, we would just have to string it once. And once we string it up through the pulleys, we leave enough slack at the bottoms to in the spring and in the fall, we untie the bottoms and let the line just drop in the middle. We do the work we need to do, and then we hoist it back up and secure the lines at the top or at the bottom with them taut at the top. And I was like, this could be a really cool system. Or like, we would just only need to get up in the tree really once into each tree to mount the pulley and run the cable through the pulleys. And then everything else would legitimately be from the ground level and just bringing the work to us using gravity and then hoisting it back up when we needed to get it back up in the air. So he's going to be out in the middle of the month. We're going to kind of go scout out. He's going to bring some rhizomes out. We're going to get them established, probably in pots, unless we find a super easy setup right then. We might just put them in pots and use them to propagate those ones to propagate out more, propagate out for at least a setup at Delinquent's Gully, and then probably, hopefully, a comfrey and hops setup over at Jamie's in one of his open spots, in one of his open fields. So working with nature again, hopefully tying in and using the established infrastructure that nature's provided instead of cutting down a bunch of trees and clearing to get it accomplished. So that'll be an interesting little experiment. Excited to be out there more. I was talking to Corey and also Tim and Carrie about how much I'm excited to be out at the property. How much wasted time and energy going back and forth. It really limits. If I could walk out in the morning and do some work and come back in and do some other stuff and then be able to, spend some evening time or some time in the afternoon working on different things, it would be a way different situation as it is now. With the half-hour drive one way, it's like you get your chunk of time. I'm not going to make double trips out there in a day to work in the evening and come back and let the dogs out and then back and forth. So being on site, it'll be definitely a game changer for progress and workload. True Wildlife says, I have these huge cattle mineral tubs I get for free. They're 20 to 25 gallons. Find some cattle farms. Nice. Yeah, that those would be interesting. I do drive past them. I'm curious. I need to stop in and talk to him anyway. Regardless, I'm interested where he sells his beef, and it looks like he runs them a majority on pasture and then hay feed. So I wonder what he's up to and what he feeds them. So I need to stop by anyway. He's right on the corner. I drive past it every time I go out there. She says, Brian, I get it. We're finally here, but working on the other house, 35 minutes, but we will list it in the next few weeks. Oh, guys, that'll be so nice for you. When you get down to the one property, we're really looking forward to that. Those tubs are heavy duty too. Yeah, meant to deal with cattle. Yeah, I know exact tubs you're talking about, and getting a bunch of those would be really cool. It'd be really interesting to do them. It'd be really interesting to do them underneath the line, to where we're not even going in the soil. We're just planting right into those tubs. I'll have to talk to Carrie about that. Interesting. Mike's Homestead asks, other than beer, is there a use for hops? I didn't necessarily know. I do know that that Carrie and his brother sell directly to the breweries on vine. They don't dry them, they don't pick them, they don't do any. Actually, they pick them at the brewery because they offer them free beer to help. But basically, they cut them down, and they have coordinated with different breweries, and they sell them live on the vine. So basically, they lop them off, throw them in the truck, and deliver them. And that would be ideal. I would probably, with the limited supply we would have on DG, we would probably do the whole drying thing. And Rewild Their Life says medicinal hops can help you sleep. I think we would probably just be doing them craft. It'd just be it'd be the experience, and probably more for propagation and sales, like comfrey. Once or twice a year, we would sell rhizomes. We would sell the plants more than the product. So, but we will see. We will see. Chris Dixon says enough beer helps you sleep too. That's the hops in the beer. Must be the hops in the beer. Rewilder Life says hops is medicinal, so that in turn would make beer medicinal. There you go, guys. If you want to drink, if you want to drink more beer, just say it's medicinal because of the hops. Hunter says, "What is a hopberry flower head?" What? You really confuse me sometimes. A hopberry flower head, I'm not sure. Hops flower, and then they oh, what is a hop? Is it a berry? It's a flower that turns into a bud. They look like weed buds. Um, Rewild Life says, I bought some from Carrie, and they're growing. Plan to create shade beauty here, plus some sleep. Yeah, it does. It does create a nice shade screen. And that's one thing we need to be careful not to do at Delinquent Scully is add more shade. We have plenty of shade, but it is something that you can grow a living hedge, and they really thrive in the high sun and breeze. Like Carrie said, it will flower the most. Chris Dixon says we have a craft brewery about an hour away. Weird. Yeah, I would be targeting like the Jackson, Memphis, Nashville, things like that. Jim says New York had grants for hops farm startups. Are you looking to get into that? Not necessarily. I'm not looking to be a hop farmer. We don't have the proper setup on that property to even attempt to grow enough to make it worth it. As a solo operation, it's going to be more of an add-on for Delinquent Scully. But Jamie's got a field. I think it would be enough. I've gone through the metrics with Carrie and the time they put it in, like the time in. The juice is definitely worth the squeeze once you get it set up for the amount of time you actually put into it. And if we can marry in some other systems to control weeds, using comfrey and different techniques in the aisles between the rows. The maintenance is pretty low. Basically, you put some time in the spring where you're setting up your guidelines, dropping down from your main wire, and you train the plant to it. Other than maintenance of the aisles where you're going to have grass, but if you can get something else in there to keep the grass down or mulch or whatever, that's your maintenance throughout the growing season. And then, like I said, they dry them or they sell them straight on the vine. So their fall labor is basically driving down the aisle, cutting the guidelines and cutting the bottoms and draping them on the truck and driving them to the brewery. So it's a pretty low input for a whole season of crop, and they get a decent yield. And the price is it fluctuates season to season, but the price is good, and like the juice is worth the squeeze for them for sure. They're continuing to do it. I don't think we have the setup at DG, like I said, but Jamie does have some fields there, and he is interested in that. The biggest thing is sourcing the posts. The posts is going to be the huge expense and getting them set. But we do know a couple folks with equipment there, and if we can get our hands on the right amount of posts, because they got to be 25, 30 foot tall. To bury them, I think Carrie said 20 foot is pretty ideal. So, you're going to bury that 4 or 5 feet in the ground. You want 25 foot posts is either expensive or difficult to source. So for free or cheap. So maybe cutting some trees, maybe finding some cedars. There's options. We got a lot of property that we can scope for stuff like that out by DG, because we have friends that own quite a bit of the property around the location, plus Tim's property, Jamie's property, and several other folks. So yeah, Jim says, what are telephone poles? That's exactly. I think Carrie used telephone poles, some cedar poles, a black locust trees. Yeah, we'll probably end up just walking through the woods, finding a bunch of cedars that are the appropriate height, cutting them down and stripping them and burying them would probably be an appropriate way to go. But it's the doing it, and a lot of this stuff becomes way more viable when we're out there and can spend a bunch of time out at the property. So excited. Like I mentioned earlier, end of June looks like we're gonna get our posts and roof and everything up. So that'll be cool, and we'll be able to start working on getting the floor hung and walls and windows and doors. And I think once we have the walls, once we have the floor hung and the walls and the windows and the doors, we won't need much else to go and get out there full time. We're pretty easy. We're pretty easy going. After living in the camper, just having the space, the open space, and being out there away from this neighborhood and being out on that property will be enough to get us there, and we'll be able to make a lot quicker progress when we're in the inside and being there all the time, so we can get up and be there to work on it. Other Life says, I love planning. How exciting. How big is the little cabin? How big is our cabin? Our cabin's going to be 24 by 36. Is the footprint, and I think it's 10 by 16 of that. 10 by 16 of that is a undercover porch. So the interior cabin is like a U with a 10 by 16 porch in the middle. So Hunter says, "Are you keeping books on how much this costs?" The cabin. I could list off all the prices of the cabin, but yeah, I will. I'll know a cost for sure. I'll know a cost. Prices were going up. That's why I went out last Monday. Prices were going up May 1st on materials, so that's got in before the price increase. Got that purchase. So exciting to get that done, and it'll be a spendy project for sure for the inside, and but it's what we want, and it will be built to the way we want it, and exciting. So anyway, that's about what I have on the list. Let me check. Truck updates, comfrey sale, comfreyroots.com. Getting a bit free $40 crown if you're buying a 5-pack of roots. Basically, you could start your comfrey business. Start a comfrey business with that setup. That's probably, let me see. When I started, that's about what I started with, except the crown. I didn't get any crowns. I probably ordered 50 to 75 roots, and when they came, I was able to actually cut them down a little. They were very large, and you could probably do the same with ours if you wanted to. But 50 roots and a crown is definitely enough that next season you would probably be able to start selling your own. So anyway, comfreyroots.com, put a 5-pack in your cart and purchase it. You will get a free crown when it gets shipped out every Monday. Other than that, just going to keep working on these tables and benches. This week, I got a bunch of stuff to do out at DG. Everything's exploding. The vegetation's growing. The grass is growing. And it's just going to keep raining for a little bit here. And so I got to get out and get stuff knocked down, get ahead on the food forest before it gets too out of control. But all the trees are looking good. The comfrey's coming in that I planted next to the trees. And Carrie's coming out the middle of the month, and we'll start working on this year's plan for that. So anyway, hope you all have a good week and you get everything done. You can hang out with us over at the Telegram group at t.me/lotschat. That's t.me/lotschat. You can find me on Noster, Facebook. Noster is the best way to find me. Facebook, hit or miss. And I jump around over on LinkedIn, Twitter, and like that. So anyway, check that out. We'll see you again next Monday morning.